What's going on, everybody? It is the NFL Experts. I'm Wayne G, joined as always by Mark D. What's going on, Mark?
What up, Wayno? So I'm just gonna tell the listening audience that I'm forever gonna be on location, either at a Starbucks or a B-Dubs or even a McDonald's. Who knows? Anywhere where there's free Wi-Fi, because
Free
my
good Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi at home is shit. So just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, I was
But I'm
actually
good.
looking at upgrading my Wi-Fi here because I saw that my carrier doubled their biggest. Like I had the biggest 1.2 gigabyte speed, and now they have 2 gigabyte speed. So I thought about paying the extra money to upgrade, but I was like, I don't really have too many problems with my internet, so I'll leave it.
Well, I have the best I can get, and it sucks. So I'm just gonna keep rolling, man. I'm good. I'm gonna keep on trucking. I'm okay with going to Starbucks and or B-Dubs or whatever.
Well, this is a special mock draft episode. The actual draft is tomorrow night. You can see we have the draft logos on our images. So we are going to be doing a live mock draft. Full disclosure, we did kind of do this ahead of time because otherwise this would be like a 4-hour show. So we narrowed it down. We have our picks, who we're going to go with, and we will give you who they are. Before we dive into that, please make sure you are following us on social media. That is at NFL Experts Pod on Twitter, NFL Experts Pod on Instagram, at NFL Experts Pod on YouTube, TikTok, at NFL Experts Pod everywhere, and then NFL Experts Pod at Gmail if you wanted to email us. With the formalities out of the way, let's get to this mock draft, and we start off right off the bat. The Chicago Bears are on the clock. Now, before we get to the pick, obviously I had the Bears. They were the number 1 overall pick. I don't feel like I need to spend a ton of time on what they need and things like that. We kind of know where this one's going, right? Oops, wrong one. Oh, there it is. Draft 1. Or out of order. The Chicago Bears choose Caleb Williams with the first overall pick. It's a no-brainer. Listen, the guy's the best quarterback in the draft. They passed on quarterback last year when they had the number 1 pick. They're not going to do it again this year, especially because Caleb Williams is probably the best quarterback prospect since Trevor Lawrence, or maybe even since Andrew Luck. He can throw from every arm angle. He had a good year last year. It was a down year compared to the year before when he won the Heisman. But you have to remember, people forget, he had maybe the worst offensive line of Division I college football last year, and yet he still managed to throw for 300 yards a game.
I like the pick. Well, no, I agree. He's going to go number 1 to the Bears. I think they finally, after all these years, have a quarterback. So I really like to see, like I told you, they've never had a 4,000-yard quarterback, and I think he'll be their first one.
I think so, too. I think that he's going to be the guy, because that's 260 some odd yards a game, I think I was telling you, which is very doable with him with the weapons, with Keenan Allen and DJ Moore, and Gerald Everett and Cole Kmet. Like, he's definitely going to be set up for that kind of success. And I know he's a rookie, but again, he's a special rookie. He's not like a regular rookie. So he's like Andrew Luck, who's going to come in and throw for 300 yards a game.
And I'm glad that you said that, because I'm really curious to see this generational talent that they say over and over again about this guy. So yeah, dude, I'm looking forward to seeing it.
All right. Now, the second pick you had, it was the Washington Commanders. Did you have any thoughts? Obviously, this one I think requires a little bit more thought because it could have gone a lot of different directions, right?
I did. I was thinking of it in 2 ways. And I'm sure they're looking at it in the same way, that either it's Jaden Daniels or it's Drake May. These are the 2 best other quarterbacks left on prospects. They both need quarterbacks. And I know there was some news that came out that they said that Jaden Daniels really didn't vibe with the franchise because they brought all the other quarterbacks in and they played Top Golf or something. They wanted to see how he was going to react. And apparently he didn't feel that. He wasn't feeling that. But I think that's all smoke, like it is this time of year. And I think it's cool. I think it's going to be cool between the him and them. And I think Washington picks Jaden Daniels.
Jaden Daniels is the pick at number 2. And like you said, there was some talk that he didn't really love the Washington visit. I know that there was some talk that he really loved the New England visit and he likes the New England approach. And we had our guy Cecil Lammy on here. He said that he had heard through the grapevine that New England is all in on Jaden Daniels. And if he doesn't fall to them, if he does go to the Commanders at 2, then New England is out. They're trading out of the 3rd spot because they don't like the other candidates. I am curious, like you said, Jaden Daniels, Drake May. Would there be any consideration in your mind for JJ McCarthy at 2?
He was in consideration, but I just think that Drake May is the better prospect, and I just feel like that's the decision they're going to go with.
Well, Jaden Daniels, I mean.
Say what?
Jaden Daniels. You said
yes, Jaden Daniels. Okay, so you said that the Patriots are probably trading down, so Denver's on the phone, Wayne.
Yes, and I had the Patriots, obviously, because that is my team so far. I'm still not committing to them for this year. I did pick up the phone, and I said, all right, what are we talking for an offer? And I actually didn't even ask for your offer. I said, this is what I want. I said, this, if you want this 3rd pick, Denver, I need number 12. I need a 2025 first, and I need Patrick Surtain so I can pair him with Christian Gonzalez in my defensive backfield. And like you were saying to me, Sean Payton is kind of like whatever people ask for, he's going to give it.
I agree. I'm picking for Denver because that's my team. And I think Shawnee P, as I've been calling him, is willing to give up Surtain, which is part of this deal. And we're going to do it. We want number 3 pick.
All right.
And we are picking JJ McCarthy. No, my bad. Drake May, my fault. You got me thinking, JJ, when you asked me that question. Drake May.
Yeah, Drake May, I think, is the prospect who fits a little bit better with Denver. I know there's a lot of talk about JJ McCarthy, but I think that was more if JJ's there at 12, he's their guy. But if they can get up to 3, I think Drake May is the guy that they're going to go for.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was just going to say. Like JJ McCarthy was in my head because of the question you asked, and everybody's been talking about him being top 5. But you're right. I agree with you. I think Drake May is the better prospect, and I think JJ McCarthy is kind of a backup plan if we can't get Drake May. But if they get into the position to get into 3 with New England, they're going Drake May.
And Drake May, obviously, he comes in there. Does he start right away? I know they just traded or they swapped the 6th and 7th round pick to get Zach Wilson there. I'm a big proponent of letting rookies sit their rookie year. But do you think Drake May wins the starting job week 1? Do you think they start him off on the bench and he eventually gets it? Or do you think he sits the entire year?
I think that I don't think Sean Payton is going to have the confidence to just throw him out there. So I think he will sit for a minute under either Zach Wilson, who we just traded for, or Jared Stidham. But I don't think it's going to be a full year. I think maybe after Thanksgiving, maybe he takes over.
Okay. Well, he's big. He's 6'5". He's 220 pounds. He's mobile. You see him a lot of quarterback sneaks. And I think I compare him to a lot of people do as well, as kind of like a poor man's Josh Allen, mainly because of his build and his mobility. I don't think he has Allen's arm, but he's got a similar playing style.
I'm glad you said that because I'm one of the people, Wayne. I don't know if I've told you off air, but I pounded the freaking table for the Broncos to draft Josh Allen. He was in our backyard in Wyoming. We all went, like the whole staff went to his pro day, and then they never thought they were going to get Bradley Chubb. He fell to us, and they jumped for joy and picked Bradley Chubb when Josh Allen should have been the pick. So this is kind of a makeup for that.
Okay, so instead of getting Josh Allen, they get diet Josh Allen.
Yeah, and we're going to hope he comes into full Josh Allen.
And then at number 4, we do have the Arizona Cardinals. They have 1 million picks in this draft. That'll come into play later. And I had did I have them or you had them? I think you had them.
I had them.
You had
I have Arizona in my pick. Kyler Murray needs some offensive weapons. So with the 4th pick, Arizona Cardinals pick Marvin Harrison Jr.
Obviously, they could go one of 2 ways here. They could, 3 ways. They could trade out of the spot, but they also need corner. So they're missing both corners, and they are missing receivers all over the board. So I think that this is a dream scenario for them. I think that when they got at 4 and all the talk and the quarterbacks, and they love the idea of 3 quarterbacks going in the top 3, because I really do believe that Marvin Harrison Jr. is their plan A, and I don't think they have a plan B.
Yes. So I think that's why their asking price was too high. I read they wanted 3 number ones for the 4th pick, which I think is outrageous a little bit. And I think partly they did that because they weren't going to move out of 4, and they knew that no team was going to probably give them that, because they probably really, really want Marvin Harrison. Like you said, they need a corner, but they need offensive help. Kyler Murray needs offensive help, and Marvin Harrison is the best wide receiver in this class. Like, him to pair him up with Kyler Murray, I think he's got a good guy.
I think so as well. I'm a big Kyler Murray fan. I know that he's a little guy. He's 5'8" or whatever he is. He's mobile, has a huge arm, cannon for an arm. And I think giving him a guy who's 6'3", 6'4", runs a 4.3, clean route runner, good hands, there's really not a catch that Harrison can't make. I don't think that he's Megatron 2.0. I think Megatron was a much better prospect. But he's a very good prospect. And I think of all the players in this draft, he's actually my number 2 can't miss. I think he's like a 95% can't miss. I think Joe Alt is 100%, but I think that Marvin Harrison is 95% can't miss.
Well, I think if he's a can't miss, that's what they need, man. They need another can't miss player for Kyler Murray to pair with, man. Like, he needs weapons, and so this is a good start for them because they do have another pick later in this round.
Well, the Chargers are at number 5, but hold on a second. The New England Patriots make a deal with the Chargers. They send number 12, number 34, 2025 first, and the 2025 Broncos first to the Chargers to move from 12 back to 5 because Elliott Wolf loves this guy. And the New England Patriots select J.J. McCarthy. So there was talk early on that, you know, Elliott Wolf loves that. Is it Elliott Wolf? It's the son, right?
Yes.
It's Wolf.
Yes.
It's Wolf.
Former Packers GM, assistant.
He loves J.J. McCarthy. When these reports were coming out, I was curious, do they love him at 3 or do they love him later? I wasn't sure. Because they didn't get Jaden Daniels, they trade out. But I think that I believe with all the fiber in my being that if he's there at 6, the Giants are taking him at 6. So New England has to get up there to 5. They trade away all of the assets they just accumulated, with the exception of Surtain. They keep Surtain. And I'm sorry, if you tell me, Wayne, you're not going to have a first-round pick, essentially, or you're going to come away from the first 2 rounds with Patrick Surtain and J.J. McCarthy, that's a really good draft for New England.
I would agree, Wayne. When you made this trade, I thought it was totally something they would do because they still do need a quarterback. They didn't maybe get the guy that they wanted, but J.J. McCarthy is a great prospect. And, dude, he's already played in the cold in Michigan. He's going to fit right in New England.
Yeah, I think he's going to be great in New England should he go there. The only disappointment I have, one, is I gave up, a first-round pick of my own. So not only did I trade away all the assets I just got, I had to give up an additional asset to get there. But the other thing is that I'm not going to get a tackle in the first 2 rounds, which I really wanted. My dream scenario, because we're trying to predict a little bit, my dream scenario is that Joe Alt goes at 3. That's my dream. It's not going to happen. So this is the realistic scenario to me, or the more realistic scenario than Joe Alt going at 3. But the trades aren't done yet. At 6, you had the Giants. What was their thought process?
I did. I think that they really need or want one of these top wide receivers. So they're willing to jump up to 6 to get the guy they want. And they pick
the Falcons.
With right? No, yes. The Falcons. The Falcons are the ones that wanted to move up to get their guy because they have some guys there, but they're not totally sure on them. Mooney and Drake London. But they really want this guy because he's one of the top wide receivers besides Marvin Harrison. And with the 6th pick, Atlanta picks Malik Neighbors.
I like this pick for them. I do think that they have to trade up here because there's a lot of scenarios that can play out. I don't think that Neighbors is the best fit for the Giants. I mean, they need a receiver as well, but I don't think that he's their guy. I think that the Falcons are all in on Neighbors. They like him better than anyone else. And he pairs great with London, who's a big 6'4" receiver. And now you've got the 6'1" shifty, great route runner who's great after the catch. It's a perfect complement. Plus, you still have Kyle Pitts there. You've got Bijan Robinson there. You just got Kirk Cousins. This would be a great addition for them. I think when I say a bunch of things could happen, let's say the Giants stay there. If they take Joe Alt, then somebody can trade with the Titans to move up and get, Malik Neighbors. If the Giants take Malik Neighbors, you lose them that way. Or maybe somebody trades with the Giants to get Malik Neighbors. So I think Atlanta had to here. And I think in our trade, we had the Giants get number 8, number 79, and a 2025 fourth to move back 2 spots. And I think Atlanta's happy with that,
I think Atlanta is happy with the pick. They get another weapon for Cousins. Like I said, Cousins is going to have some weapons, man, in Atlanta. He's going to be able to, do basically anything he wants in that offense because every skill position is going to be a really great player. So look out for Kirk Cousins in fantasy next year, fellas. Just saying. So, yes, I think this is great for Atlanta.
The Tennessee Titans were next on the board, and I'm not going to dilly-dally or talk about all the different things. There was only one guy that they were hoping to get.
Come on, your guy, Wayne.
And with the 7th pick, the Tennessee Titans take Joe Alt, tackle. He's from the lineage of, John Alt played for the Chiefs. So this is a guy who I think, in my opinion, is a first ballot Hall of Famer. We talked about it in previous episodes as well. He walks on the stage. They don't hand him a Titans jersey. They hand him a yellow jacket and they say, "Welcome to Canton," because that's how good he is. He is a 0% bust chance. And he's the guy I really want the Patriots to take, but they're not going to. Tennessee gets an absolute stud with Joe Alt.
Yes, I agree with you, dude. He's one of these players, Wayne, that's an absolute can't miss. He's one of those players that, who do I pick? Who do I pick? This guy you are not going to miss on. He is going to be legit for this Titans day one. He will start for them day one, and they really need help at tackle, so they're getting a great fit for them.
Now, I do want to mention when I say I want the Patriots to take him at 3, there are people who get really mad when I say that. When I say people, I mean dumb Patriots fans. If you're a dumb Patriots fan, you're probably mad right now because I just said that. But listen, Joe Alt is the pick at 3 because when you're doing a rebuild, the mistake that a lot of teams make when they're rebuilding is they start with quarterback. Well, that's the wrong way to rebuild. I mean, it's fine if you get Andrew Luck or Caleb Williams or Trevor Lawrence, but he's not there at 3. The reason you rebuild, you start with Joe Alt. In order for a quarterback to be successful, he needs good receivers, good running backs, good offensive line. In order for an offensive tackle to be good, doesn't need anybody, just himself, right? So when you're rebuilding, you start with the pieces who don't need anybody else, and that's your offensive line. Then you get your quarterback and your receivers because they will thrive with a good offensive line. That's my train of thought there.
I agree with you, Wayne. The 49ers pretty much did the same kind of that plan, is that they kind of built their offense and their defense, and then they tried looking for a quarterback. Then they went through the carousel of Trey Lance, and then they found Brock Purdy. So, yeah, I think that is the right way to go. But I think like you said, in some other cases, when you got a guy like Andrew Luck or Caleb Williams, you're going to pull that trigger, or even John Elway or any of those greats in the past.
Absolutely. Now, you're back on the clock with the Giants. What was their train of thought? They moved out from 6. What do they need?
Well, all the top 4 quarterbacks are off the board. I think they really wanted a quarterback, but they're not going to get the guy they want. I'm not totally sure who the guy they wanted. Maybe JJ. So instead of drafting a quarterback, they're going to get the next best wide receiver, and they're going to go with the 8th pick, Rome Odunze.
I think a perfect fit for the New York Giants. I think that he's a big possession receiver. They already have Jalen Hyatt, who's like their speed, take the top off the defense guy. So I think that this is definitely a better fit for them than Malik Neighbors would be. I think Neighbors and Hyatt are too similar. I think this gives them a complementary piece to Hyatt. So it works. It gives Daniel Jones some weapons. So he might be thinking, oh, thank goodness they didn't take a quarterback. There's 6 more rounds to go. They're probably going to take one.
Yes, Wayno, I'm sure he's real happy about this pick because he's like, a weapon for me, and they're like not bringing a guy to replace me. Win-win. So, yes, Danny Dimes, as they say, has won on this pick.
And then the Chicago Bears are back on the clock at 9. And this is their second pick in the top 10. Brandon Combs feels like they're going to move out. There's no way they're picking at 9. And if they do pick at 9, he says there's no way they're taking an edge. They are going to be taking offensive line. And I do agree with him that they need offensive line help. They need a center. They need guard. They're okay at the tackle positions, but they really need edge because I think that Montez Sweat can't do it all by himself. You need to take some pressure off of him. And so with the 9th pick, the Bears get who I think is the best pass rusher in the class, Laiatu Latu. And the reason they go here instead of Verse or Dallas Turner is because Latu got the clean bill of health. He's no red flags. And so that right there makes him up. I think the reason that early on he was being mocked after those guys because there was concerns about his health. With those concerns erased, he is the number 1 pass rusher off the board. And so he goes at 9 to the Bears.
Bueno, as I've said on previous episodes, you have been teaching me a lot about the draft process and prospects and everything. And in the earlier mocks, he was falling down farther than this pick, and he's rose up in mocks since then to be the top defensive guy. I'm not totally sure what changed, but I think I agree with you. I think he is the best freaking edge rusher on the board at this time. So yes, I think that's great for them. I'm not sure. Is he one of those? Is he one of those Samoans? Is Latu Samoan?
I think so. Yeah. So him and The Rock and Troy Polamalu. Anything ends with a U, right? If it ends with an I, it's Italian. If it ends with a U, it is Samoan.
I don't know. The way I look at it is a lot of the Samoan players that are in the league have dominated. So yes, this is a good pick for them.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a great pick for them. With him on one side, Sweat on the other, they're gonna wreak havoc. And they still have they re-signed Jones at corner. So now they're putting pressure on the quarterback, and they have a good shutdown cornerback there. The Bears, literally with 2 picks, could be, in the playoffs next year.
Yeah, I could see that, especially with all the weapons and now Caleb Williams. Look out! Like maybe the Bears are actually going to be something for a change. Wayno.
And then we have the New York Football Jets, Jets, Jets. I should have gotten that little chant to throw on here because that's obnoxious. But you had the Jets, and who were you thinking, or what sort of positions were you thinking were in the mix?
Okay, so as you know, Wayne, I hate Aaron Rodgers. So this pick was kind of hard for me because I'm like, do I really give him a weapon? What do I do? Do I get a defensive guy just in spite him because I can't stand him? So, but as you always say, we're thinking of as we're the GM and what's best for the team, even though I don't want to get my own opinions mixed in with it. So I had to take my hate of Rodgers out of it. So I think they need some offensive weapons. I was thinking a tackle here, but they just signed Moses and they signed Tyrann Mathieu. So even though Tyrann Mathieu hasn't really been healthy, and this draft class is deep with tackles, so maybe they can get one later, maybe not. But they go offensive weapon here for Rodgers, and they take at 10 Brock Bowers.
I do think early on tackle was in consideration before they made their free agent signings, and so now it's not as big a need. So I do think that they start looking at offense. They could look at receiver here. Brian Thomas Jr. is still on the board, so he could be in play. But I do think that this is kind of Brock Bowers territory. That 10 to 15 range is kind of where he's probably going to end up going. If he falls outside of 15, he's going to be an absolute steal for somebody. But we get him at the top here at 10. I think not only can he block, but he is a really good receiver. I think he does give Aaron Rodgers another weapon that isn't a traditional wide receiver, but another weapon who can catch passes. So I like this pick for the Jets, and I think that Aaron Rodgers is going to like this pick for the Jets.
And another note on my pick, Wayne, Aaron Rodgers is another quarterback like Brady and like Peyton Manning. They don't like working with young receivers. I'm not totally sure if it's because they're inexperienced and they haven't learned what they will need him to learn yet. But Aaron Rodgers has gotten to that point. And so I think he prefers his older wide receivers. But I think tight end, he's not going to utilize him as much. So a rookie's okay, I think.
With the 11th pick, the Minnesota Vikings are on the clock. Now, a little backstory about this is that they almost traded up. And I'm sure that Mark will tell you there were a lot of trades that I really put a lot of thought into and then backed out at the end thinking just it's not going to happen.
You did.
And I do
You did.
I do think Minnesota wants to trade up. I just don't think that they want to give up the farm to get up there, to get up to 3, to get up to 5. I mean, I think they would love to get to 3 if Drake May is on the board, which he is in our draft. But as a Patriots GM, I like the idea of getting the 2 picks plus Surtain over 11, 23, and another first. I just think Surtain is going to be amazing in that secondary. So the Vikings stay at 11, but they do still need a quarterback. And with the 11th pick in the draft, they get Bo Nix. Again, this could be high for him. Both Nix and Penix have kind of a window that's 11 to 40, I was saying, so they could be anywhere in there. And they could be crazy early or they could be late into the second round. We don't know yet. In this draft, Bo Nix is the guy. I don't think Minnesota does anything else here. They could go edge. I mean, they do need an edge rusher. But with it being such a glaring need and the fact that Bo Nix might not be there at 23 because he has such a large window, I think this is the guy they go with at 11.
I think this is a good pick. Like you said, they didn't want to give up the farm. They still building. They still need some holes to fill, not necessarily a lot, but some. And they do need a quarterback because I don't think that Sam Darnold is the answer. And Bo Nix is going to, when he goes there, he's going to have a lot of weapons, and he's the type that's going to get the ball out quick, which will be good for their offense. He's going to have Justin Jefferson. So, yeah, I think this is a good move for them.
Yeah, Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison to throw to. And then they went out and they got Aaron Jones. So, I mean, he's got some weapons.
I don't know. What's your thoughts? Do you think he's going to start right away, or do you think he'll be like Drake May, maybe play later in the year?
I don't. So this is a good question because I don't know. I think that Sam Darnold obviously is a good stopgap guy. He's been a stopgap at a couple different places, and he could do it here as well. However, I think that Bo Nix is good enough to win the starting job in the preseason and could start week 1.
I think so too. I thought he looked really great in college. Like I said on that episode with Brandon, that I don't know why he gets all the flack and why he's like the fifth quarterback when he played really well in Oregon. And like Brandon said, Auburn ran the ball lots. He didn't really get to show his talents. And then when he got to Oregon, you kind of got to see it. So I'm curious to see what he does in the NFL and with Minnesota with all those weapons.
With the 12th pick, now I'm back on the board again because this is where the Chargers ended up because after Denver traded up to 3 and then the Patriots traded down or up to 5, now the Chargers finally get to pick at 12. You might say, man, they missed out on Neighbors. They missed out on Odunze. They missed out on, Marvin Harrison Jr. They really need a receiver. There are 2 receivers left in free agency. Well, have no fear, Chargers fans. With the 12th pick in the NFL draft, the Chargers select Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU. Big, fast, good hands. Good pick for them. They get a guy. They don't get one of the top 3 receivers, but they do get one of the top 4 receivers, and the talent does drop off significantly after Thomas. And they accumulated a ton of assets from New England. So overall, I think they're making out okay here.
I think so too, Wayne. They're getting one of the top 4 guys. I think Brian Thomas, I think some teams might have even thought about moving up even higher for him to pick him than where he just went. So, yeah, this is perfect for them. They need a wide receiver. They're desperate at that position right now. I'm sure that Harbaugh probably really wanted Marvin Harrison Jr., who he could have got at 5 possibly. But it didn't work out that way. Like you said, they got assets. So, yeah, I think this is going to move for the Chargers, even though I hate complimenting the Chargers.
Well, let's just say if you hate complimenting Chargers, next on the board is the Raiders. And I know that you had given me the Raiders to draft because there's no way I'm trying to help the Raiders get better. So
nope. I was no way I'm picking for Vegas, bro.
They need some things as well. They need a quarterback. They could go that route. Penix is still on the board. They do need offensive line help. They need some defensive help. I think the Vegas Raiders in this situation at 13, they take Olu Fashanu. I think he's the best offensive tackle left on the board. I know that there was a lot of smoke screens about him dropping. He could end up in the 20s. It's not going to happen. It goes Alt, then Fashanu, and he's going to be the next one off the board. He goes to the Raiders at 13, and now they have somebody who can block for maybe whatever quarterback they draft in round 2 through 7.
I think this is a great pick. Like you said, they need all kinds of help, and they do need offensive line help. And like you said, I never believed the smoke about Fashanu. Like I believe last week when he said that Fashanu should have been one of the top guys, and he still is. He's still falling under the top 15. So yeah, so I think he went where he should have went.
Now, I will say that I do think that the signing of Gardner Minshew made this pick possible, because I think if they didn't get him, I think they have to take a quarterback here. And like I said, it's not the right way to rebuild getting quarterback first. They're doing it the right way. They get tackle first. They can get quarterback down the road.
They're doing the right way. Like you said, I agree with you. I think Antonio Pierce is what they need. Someone that knows football, knows the players you need because he played. He may not know all the X and O's, but I think he's going to get there at some point. So, yes, he's getting one of the top O-line guys in the league, one of the top tackles.
And then you had the New Orleans Saints.
Yes, and I had the number 14 pick with the Saints, and I thought about all kinds of positions at this spot because it's kind of one of those spots where there's corners left, there's some edge left, there is some tackles, wide receivers. It's like, which way do they go? What do they need? I think the aging Ryan Ramczyk is the reason why they go with this pick. At pick number 14, they pick, if I'm saying this right, Taliese Fuaga.
Yeah, Fuaga is the pick here. I think this actually makes a ton of sense. You have to remember, in our first mock draft that we did with Sully, Fuaga's already off the board. He went to the Raiders. So the Saints took Troy Fontenot because he was the best offensive lineman left on the board. In this case, Fuaga is on the board. He's the guy who is argued to be possibly the number 2 tackle, even though I think it's Fashanu. So they get the number 2 tackle at 14. I mean, good pick for them. Now they have some protection for Derek Carr.
Yes, he needs protection there. Like I said, they're going to address all their other needs in the later rounds, but with this tackle draft being so deep and these guys being really good, yeah, they go with Fuaga, and he's more of a right tackle, and that's partly why I made this pick is because of Ramczyk, and he's aging, and they're going to need someone to fill that spot.
With the 15th pick, we have the Indianapolis Colts, and this was one that I thought really long and hard about because the Colts do need a lot of different things. They do need some offensive line help, even though they have a great offensive line. They do need some wide receiver help, even though they re-signed Pittman. They need some more options there for Anthony Richardson. They would have loved to have gotten Bowers here, but he's off the board at this point. So at 15, the Colts decide to address pass rush, and they get Dallas Turner, who is maybe the most athletic player in this draft. He's a little raw. He can get after the quarterback because he's fast and he's strong. He's going to have to learn some technique at the NFL level, but I think you put him on the Colts and he makes their defense that much better.
I agree. I think this was a good move, a good pick, Wayne. Even though I kind of thought maybe they might go corner here because they do need some corner help, but they do need some pass rush, man. So I think Dallas Turner is the right pick here.
Yeah, I think it's the pick they end up going with. It's a deep cornerback class, and there's a lot of good corners. They could theoretically trade back into the first. Spoiler alert, they don't in our draft, but they could. And then they could also take somebody at, in the second round who's competent as well. When I looked at the positions and I looked at their pass rush versus their cornerback need, they did need both, but I felt like corner was a little bit more solid than pass rush.
Yeah, like I said, I thought this is a solid pick, Wayne. They need pass rush. They do.
At 16,
and I had the 16th. Yep, I had the 16th pick with Seattle. This one might be a surprise for a lot of people out there. But with the 16th pick, Seattle picks Michael Penix Jr.
So you had asked me when you were thinking about doing this pick, you said, is this too much of a reach to take him here at 16? And I said, no, his window is 11 to 40. So he's in the window. It's on the earlier side of the window, but he's still there. And I do think that this is a great fit for them because Geno Smith, I think, has 1 or 2 years left. So you can give Penix some time to develop. And he gets into a system where he's got DK Metcalf and Jackson Smith and Jigba, and he's got a good receiving core there. He's going to be set up for success, especially getting that year to sit. So I actually really, really love this pick for Seattle. And if you're their GM, I'm high-fiving you. But I am curious to get your thoughts, and I did ask you this too offline. They've got a defensive coach. They go out and they get the defensive coordinator from the Ravens. You think that they go quarterback here when they don't need a quarterback? Again, it's a good pick. It's going to pay dividends in the future, but they're kind of taking a tomorrow pick, not a today pick.
And I think that's what he's thinking of is tomorrow. And because he knows that Geno Smith, he might not like Geno Smith, like he may think, hey, he might be out in a year and I'm going to need to find somebody else anyway. And so maybe I'll just get my guy now who I've seen in college, who I've seen play in the national championship game. And I think he falls here at 16 because of all the medicals they keep talking about that everybody's worried. But, dude, the guy can sling it. I think, honestly, he's like mentally, I think he's like the best quarterback in this draft just because of the way that he performed with Washington his last 2 years. They were a terrible freaking team, and he brought them to the national title game. I think a lot of it had to do with him. I heard some stat the other day that said out of I can forget how many throws. It was like over 300 some throws, and he only had like 18 interceptions, which is a crazy freaking stat. And I was like, wow, man, that guy can sling it.
Yeah, he's a really good quarterback, and I've talked about it on previous shows too, how I liked him when he was at Indiana, and then he got hurt. He goes to Washington. He got the clean bill of health as well. I'm actually surprised. I think he belongs here. This is where he should be going. All these places who have him mocked in the late 20s or even the second round, I'm curious. He's gotten a clean bill of health. He's gone 2 years without injury. He goes to the combine, gets a clean bill of health. What's holding him back? Like, what don't people like about his game?
I'm boggled by that, man. Like, I don't really follow college, but I do always watch the playoff. And he balled out. Granted, in the national title game, he got sacked a lot, and he got injured in the game. So I think that hurt him kind of in this draft process also, because they saw, oh, he's just going to be injury prone. He's already been injured, But it's like you said, he was clean. He was healthy the 2 years prior to that. So that was just one game. And then right after the game, he was fine because he participated in the Senior Bowl and all of that. And you're right. I think what you just said was perfect, Wayne. Like, this is where he should fall. I think him being in Washington and Seattle being Washington, it's a perfect fit.
Yeah, I think it's going to work out great for them long term. So I like this pick a lot. Might be my favorite pick in our draft. At 17, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. And again, they could go a lot of different ways. Trevor Lawrence did struggle last year. He could probably use another receiver. However, and they lost Calvin Ridley. I felt like they're fine at receiver. I think the biggest need for them when you look at their roster is the middle of the defensive line is just despicable. They have good pass rushers. They got Josh Allen out there. They got Trayvon Walker out there who can rush from the edge, but they have no interior pass rush whatsoever. I think if you give them Byron Murphy out of Texas, I think that now you have him in the middle. You've got Walker on one side. You've got Allen on the other side. This defense is going to be bananas good. And so I'm going Byron Murphy here at 17 to the Jaguars.
Well, when you made this pick, Wayne, I was like, well, that was the guy I was going to go with if I didn't pick Penix. So I wasn't surprised when you picked him. I was like, oh, Byron Murphy's going to go next because that's the guy I was going to pick. And then you picked him. So it didn't surprise me. Like you said, they really need help on defense. Josh Allen, they just signed to a contract, which is good. And now he's got another good person to pair with him. The one thing I always think about with Jacksonville is Trayvon Walker, number one pick. He really hasn't done much since he's been there. He really needs to turn it around.
He does need to get a little bit better. I think that this is going to help him because it's going to open up some holes. And again, he's struggled man to man. Josh Allen, you have to double team. There's no excuse for Walker not to get double-digit sacks next year. So this definitely sets up their defense. They still have Zay Jones. They went out and they got Gabe Davis. They've got Trevor Lawrence. You've got Ingram. You've got Etienne back there. They're in a good spot offensively. This helps their defense. I think that they could be a team that could challenge Houston. I know everyone's thinking Houston's going to run away with it after the season. Maybe, maybe not. I think Jacksonville, as long as they get Trevor Lawrence, they're still going to be in the hunt. And
I know I've said on many episodes, Wayne, that division is very winnable for any one of those teams. So, yes, this was a good move. They looked at their weakness, which was defense, and they addressed it.
Cincinnati on the clock.
And I had Cincinnati. I kind of have some sort of love for Cincinnati. Maybe it's Burrow. I know we always go back and forth with Burrow. Speaking of Burrow, with the 18th pick, they get someone to help him. J.C. Latham.
I like the pick. Long time coming. I think that when they drafted Burrow and then he got sacked 196 times in 4 games, and then he hurt his knee, I thought for sure they were going to take Penei Sewell the next year because that made the most sense. And instead they went with Jamar Chase, which granted it worked out, but he needs offensive line help to protect him. He's gotten hurt 2 of the last 4 seasons. Give this guy some protection. Latham's there. I think he gives them a good amount of protection. I know you would ask me about Latham versus Fontenot. And I said, well, Fontenot's more versatile, but he's probably going to end up a guard when all's said and done. And so you went with the true tackle, which I like to pick.
And that's why I asked, Wayne, because I was like, I had heard rumblings that Fontenot's more of a guard, maybe center, in that range. Maybe he could play tackle. Maybe he's one of those versatile guys. But I think Burrow needs a straight, true tackle. And I think they signed I forget who they signed, or they traded for from the Chiefs. I forget his name. But he really hasn't worked out at tackle. So I think this guy might be a makeup for the Jamar Chase here, and he's going to fix that problem.
Well, I do think that Orlando Brown is the guy you're talking about, and I think that he's actually
yes.
a very solid left tackle, which is perfect because J.C. Latham mostly played right tackle in college, so he doesn't have to make that transition from right to left or left to right. He played right in college. He's going to play right in the NFL, and Brown will stick at left. I think it's going to be a good fit. He's the day one starter there.
And like you said, you took the words out of my mouth. Burrow, yes, is always injured. It's his one weakness, I would say, because the dude is freaking awesome, and he just needs to be protected. It's one thing that I think they've kind of lacked in Cincinnati since he's been there. So I'm really glad that I had the chance to pick for them and pick this pick.
Well, I know you took a chance at 16 with Penix. You're going to take another chance here at 19, and we'll talk about it. What are you thinking here with the Rams?
Okay, so as I was explaining off air, I had the Rams pick, and we've talked on social media, Wayne, you have, that the Rams haven't had a first-round pick since what year?
2016.
2016. So it's been 8 years since they've had a first-round pick?
Yep, they took
so
Jared Goff in 16.
Okay, yes. Okay, so it's been that long since they've even been able to pick a player in this round because they're the type they say F them picks, which I kind of think is pretty cool. And so finally they get a pick again in this round. And I almost thought about trading it because I'm like, hey, maybe I'll stick to the same old scenario and trade it because that's what they do. But I didn't do that. And I think no matter what, because they didn't have all those picks all these years and Sean McVay finally gets to make a pick, he's going to go offensive. He that's what he does. It's what he likes. It's what he runs. He wants an offensive player. All the other wide receivers are off the top wide receivers off the board. So he goes with the next best one. With the 19th pick, the Rams pick Adonai Mitchell.
I like Adonai Mitchell because of what you said. Thomas is off the board. He's the next best receiver on the board. I mentioned this to you before we started recording that the thing that puzzled me is I know that they do need cornerback help and they do have some receivers. They've got, Cooper Kupp they got him. They've got Allen Robinson there still. They've got I'm blanking on the name. Puka Nacua yet. So I mean, this would be like their 4th receiver. I mean, maybe he gets into that 3rd spot, but to me it seemed like, all right, well, don't they have bigger needs? And I mean, you're just kind of saying, well, listen, I don't think McVay's going defense.
I don't think so at all, Wayne. I think no matter what, he's like, I finally got a number 1 pick. I'm going to pick an offensive guy. I don't care what it is. I'm going to pick an offensive guy. And I think at this point, a lot of the top tackles are gone. A lot of the top wide receivers are gone. So he's like, I'm going to go with the next best wide receiver. And like you said, he's a rookie. He's already got some other guys with him, with Puka and with Cooper Kupp. So he's not going to really have to do a whole lot in the first year. So that'll give him time to learn off his offense because I'm sure his offense is really complicated. So that's good for him.
And I know with the next pick, it was supposed to be Pittsburgh. And I thought long and hard about this one because there was a guy who I really wanted at 20 for Pittsburgh. And at the end of the day, I said, I don't know, maybe they get some more assets here. And
so then
you came calling.
Arizona got on the phone.
Arizona, with their 400 picks that they have in this draft, got up there and threw a few picks at Pittsburgh. And let me see here. We have The Steelers traded to the Cardinals. They get 27, 66, and 162. And then the Cardinals are on the clock at 20.
Yes. And so, as we were talking about earlier in the draft, they got the wide receiver they really wanted, but they still are lacking corner help. So, with the 20th pick, the Arizona Cardinals pick Quinyon Mitchell.
I think this is a phenomenal pick for them, and this is why they traded up, because Mitchell was just falling and falling and falling, and nobody was trading up to get this guy. Philadelphia, I think we had talked about Philadelphia trading up with Pittsburgh to get him because they need a corner as well. And when you made your offer, and I started thinking, well, Philadelphia could offer their second, because they have 2 seconds, so they could offer 22 and 53, which would be better than what Arizona was offering. But after several gut-wrenching minutes of thinking about it, I said, I don't think Philadelphia is going to do it. I think that, Arizona gets it. So Arizona here at 20 gets what a lot of people have as a top 10 pick at 20.
Like you said, he fell, and Arizona took advantage. They're like, hey, we're going to use this buttload of picks we have, and we're going to get up and get the corner really we want. I think Quinyon Mitchell is one of the top corners in this draft. So this is perfect for them. Like you said, they have no corner help. He comes in right away, plays day one. Perfect fit for them.
And then you're on the board again with Miami.
I had these last 4 picks. I just realized. Yeah, so I'm on the board with Miami. And from the get, in a lot of our mocks, Wayne, I've had Miami. I've had to pick for them. And I just really think they really need a center. They really do. And I heard a stat today that centers are one of the positions in the draft that usually don't miss. And so with the 21 pick, Miami picks Jackson Powers Johnson.
This is the guy I was thinking for Pittsburgh at 20. I said, because they also need interior offensive line help. It's a great pick for Miami because I think that in the mock draft I did solo for Miami, I had them taking Jordan Morgan, but not to play tackle, but to move him inside to guard. So they need interior offensive line help. I think Jackson Powers Johnson's a fantastic pick. If he doesn't play center, he plays guard, and it's going to be perfectly fine. Tua's going to have somebody there to protect him, which he needs because he cannot get another concussion. So I love it. I think it's a perfect pick for Miami.
I think so too. I think this is perfect. Like you said, he can play guard or center, so it's wherever he works out for them, he'll fit. He's got Tua's got another protector, and yeah, less injury for Tua.
And then at 22, we had the Eagles. They stayed put instead of trading up because they didn't want to give up what it was going to take to move up. And with the 22nd pick, they get their cornerback in Terrion Arnold. Now, some might argue that Arnold is actually the best corner in the draft and that Mitchell's the best athlete at corner in the draft. Terrion Arnold's fantastic. He played great all year for Alabama. What may have hurt him a little bit and why he wasn't the first corner off the board is he did not have a fantastic combine. So I think that hurt him a little bit. But the production is there. If you watch the tape, there's nobody that he couldn't cover. And I think that the Eagles get him. And I think that he's an upgrade over Slay and the other guy. I'm blanking.
I was just thinking that, Wayne. I couldn't think of his name either. I was like,
Bradbury.
Who's the other guy there? Okay, yes. So I totally agree with you. Arnold, like you said, he had a bad combine, and I think that's why he dropped. And Mitchell had a really good combine, so he only dropped 2 picks. It's not that crazy. And Philly's still getting a really good corner. Like you said, I think he's better than Slay. I think he's better than their other corner. They needed corner help. So, and I know Howie Roseman probably really wanted to move up to get someone another position. I just feel like that for some reason. But Terrion Arnold's going to fit with them, I believe.
He is for sure. And I'm going on a little bit of run of picks here as well. I have at 23, I have the Minnesota Vikings. They took Bo Nix earlier at 11. I mentioned that the toss-up was either going to be Bo Nix or a pass rusher, which might have been Dallas Turner, or it might have been Jared Verse. Well, they wait until 23, and they get Jared Verse at defensive end, pass rusher. And so really kind of a steal for them because they were thinking about taking him at 11. So they end up waiting 12 picks, and they get him anyways. Plus, they got Bo Nix. So they didn't trade up into the top 5 with those 2 picks. Instead, they used the 2 picks, and they build an offensive piece and a defensive piece.
Yes, like you said, they could have used both of those for a package up, but they didn't. But they get 2 really good positions that they do need. and I feel like that's going to help them right away. They always say, Wayne, that first round picks should be day one starters. So they basically got 2 day one starters, and they're already on a step ahead of all these other teams.
It definitely helps them out. Like I said, I think they can make a playoff run here, just like the Bears. That division is going to be very interesting, but you do have the Lions, who almost won the NFC. You do have the Packers. Jordan Love, year 2 as the starter. That division is going to be really interesting to watch this year.
That division is going to be very tough, Wayne.
And then at 24, we have
then you had
America's team. Yeah, the Dallas Cowboys, who I was looking at some of what they needed. They could have used another receiver to help take some pressure off of CeeDee Lamb. They could use a running back, but there's no running back worth taking in round 1 here. If you follow my belief, there's no running back ever worth taking in round 1. But in this draft in particular, there's no Bijan, there's no Gibbs. So I said, what's next? And I looked at corner. Corner, they're set at corner. Their whole defensive secondary is set. They have good pass rushers, but what they really needed was some interior offensive line help. So they go out and they get Troy Fontenot. So here you have a guy who he can play tackle, and I know that their other tackle, they have a good all-pro tackle, but then the other tackle I don't think is amazing. He's okay. I think it might be Steele is the other offensive tackle. But either way, Fontenot can play guard. He can move out to tackle if you need him to. He's got the arm length to do it, but I think he comes in, he plays guard, and he shores up that offensive line. And I think a lot of Cowboys fans are upset. I mean, listen, Jerry Jones said he was all in. He didn't do anything in free agency. Now you're coming away with a guard, like the least sexy position in the first round. So I think a lot of Cowboys fans aren't going to like this, but it's a good pick for them.
No, you're right. Dallas fans definitely aren't going to like this pick. But you know what this pick reminded me of, Wayne? It reminded me of a few years ago when they drafted Frederick. You know, and I think it was the year that Manziel could have been picked, and Jerry Jones walked around the whole room. I read this book about the Cowboys. He walked around the whole draft room, asked everybody, "Oh, we should draft Manziel. We should draft Manziel, right?" Fortunately for them, they did not draft Manziel. They drafted Frederick, who's been an all-pro guard. And like I was saying earlier, centers and guards don't miss usually in the draft. So this is, in my opinion, this is an atypical Dallas Cowboys move. They love building their O-line. This guy's going to help with that. Perfect move.
All right. At 25, we're just talking about Jordan Love. What are the Packers looking to do?
Okay, so as I've done in many mocks, as you've taught me, and as I'm learning all of this, I did a lot of research, and I researched that Green Bay hardly ever picks offense first round. Hardly ever. They do it just once in a while, but not often. They usually pick a defensive guy, and I think in this instance, they go with the next best edge rusher on the board. Number 25, the Green Bay Packers select Johnny Newton.
I think this is a really good pick for them. I think that when we were watching them in the NFC Championship game, I'd mentioned to you, we were texting back and forth because obviously Jordan Love looked incredible. And I said, boy, is he good. He's going to be so good going forward. But I said, what they really need is one of two things. They either need more pass rush because they were getting no pressure on Brock Purdy, or they need, more cornerback help. I mean, they've got Jair Alexander, but they could have used another corner here. So those were the two spots in corner and pass rush. All three of your edge rushers are off the board. They get Johnny Newton, who is not only a good interior pass rusher, maybe not quite as good as Murphy, but good. He's also a great run stopper. And that's something I think that Green Bay really likes, is a guy who can stop the run, because they can get eaten up on the run.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that, Wayne, because, yes, they are one of the worst teams against the run. This guy's going to help shore that up. And like I said, they never, ever pick really offense, so this is a perfect fit for them.
And then at 26, we had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I'm not going to apologize, but I did not have a Tampa Bay Buccaneers slide. So if you're a Buccaneers fan, you're not going to get to see the slide. But at 29 or 26, I do have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking Cooper DeJean. He falls all the way to 26. They need cornerback help. They could get possibly the best corner, another guy who's up there, or he could move to safety. I know a lot of people have him moving to safety because, he's white, just like you have black quarterbacks move to receiver, right? So it's just you have white corners move to safety. That's what you do. So people have him going either way. I think he's a starting corner, though. And before I get your thoughts on it, Mark, I did want to bring up a couple of comments because we do have Brandon watching here. And let's see. He says, "What's up, gents? Packers are going wide receiver. I know they don't typically, but I think last year showed that their wide receiver corps lacked depth. I like their wide receiver core. It's young and it's inexperienced, but adding young and inexperienced players to it isn't going to help. So I think that they aren't going to go wide receiver here. Plus, if they did, who are they taking? Troy Franklin. They're going to take Keon Coleman here. I think that Mark is right here. They're going to go defense, and it's either going to be edge, which isn't really available right now, or it's going to be interior defense, which we get with Johnny Newton. And then Brandon says, Bucks go best corner. And, well, woohoo, I agreed with Wayne. Hey, if you want to be right, you got to agree with me. It's just the way it goes. So, your thought. So, I mentioned Johnny Newton, and I mentioned Cooper DeJean. What are your thoughts on DeJean possibly ending up at 26?
I think DeJean is a great pick because, like you said, he could play corner, which they need, or he could play safety, which they need. I'm drawing a blank. They just signed one of their safeties. Drawing a blank. Winfield. And so, he's getting older, and he's going to need some help. So this guy will come in and fit both positions for them. So, yes, good pick.
All right. Now let's get to a slide I do have, which is pick number 27. This is where the Pittsburgh Steelers ended up after that trade with the Cardinals. They're going to pick here at 27. I missed out on Powers. They still need offensive line help, interior offensive line help. So they go with a guy who also can play guard and center. And at 27, the Steelers get Graham Barton. Now, I think they would have liked Powers. I considered Frazier here as well. But I think Barton's the guy because he can play center or guard, either one. I think he comes in, he starts right away for Pittsburgh, helps them open up some holes for Russell Wilson or Justin Fields or whoever wins that starting job, and Najee Harris, a mistake first-round running back that we mentioned.
Yes, they do need – I agree with this pick, Wayne. They didn't get Jackson Powers-Johnson because I stole him with Miami. So, yes, they go with Barton, who's actually rose up. Since I've been doing this research with you, I remember Barton being in the second round, and then now he's in the bottom of the first round. So he's rose up, and I think teams are finally got to see the film that he's going to be a legit center or guard. So, yes, perfect pick for pick.
And then at 28, I have the Buffalo Bills. Shameless plug, which I like to do every episode. I write for Stadium Rant, and I wrote an article called "The Buffalo Bills Are Taking a Wide Receiver in the First Round." It's not even debatable. There's no going to be discussion. They are taking wide receiver. Now, they may move up. They may go get somebody like Brian Thomas. They may get Adonai Mitchell, but both those guys are gone. They stayed at 28. And with the 28th pick, they take Troy Franklin out of Oregon. I think he's the best receiver on the board. Obviously, you can make a case for Keon Coleman, but Coleman ran that 4.6 the combine. I think that hurt his stock, and I think Franklin's the guy that they go with here at 28. And he kind of, I don't want to say he replaces Stephon Diggs because you can't really replace that with a rookie, but he comes in, he helps. He gives another weapon to Josh Allen.
I thought this was a great pick. Like, I'm with you. I think absolutely they need to pick a wide receiver. Like you said, Keon Coleman didn't really look that great with his 40 time. I think Troy Franklin is a better fit for them. He's not going to replace Stephon Diggs, but like you said, they absolutely needed a wide receiver. So this was a great pick for them. And I should mention that we did discuss them actually moving up to get one of the top guys, but it just didn't work out that way.
Not too much to give up.
Yes, they didn't want to give up all the assets, and they've already had to cut a bunch of their salaries, so they weren't going to be giving up future salaries.
I needed a sound also for like crazy fans because the next pick is Detroit. It's like we're holding the draft. So.
Yes. With the 29th pick, okay, so before I do my pick, Detroit actually was on the phone trying to move up to 20. They didn't get the deal done. Arizona ended up getting the deal done and got Quinyon. So with the 29th pick, Detroit Lions pick, Nate Wiggins.
I think this is a great pick for them here. I think all of these first-round corners are instant starters for them. It could have been Mitchell. It could have been Wiggins. It could have been DeJean. It could have been, Kool-Aid, who, spoiler again, he doesn't get picked in this first round. But he's a guy who could have gone in there and started. So I think that this is a great pick. I think Nate Wiggins, again, there's a lot of these guys. That's how good this cornerback class is. Nate Wiggins is arguably the best corner in this draft. there's all these guys are arguably the best corner in the draft because they're all so close.
Yes. I thought about the other corners, when I was picking this. Like I thought about Kool-Aid, like we talked about off air, but I think Wiggins had a really good combine, and I think a lot of teams were impressed by him. So I wasn't going to let him fall anymore. And I think Detroit really needs help at that position. So yes, they went with corner, and I think this is a good fit for them.
The Ravens are on the clock at 30. Now, the Ravens lost about 8 players to free agency. They tried to sign as many as they could. Their defense got riddled. I think they need, pass rush help. That's their number one thing. I know that they have Afanu, I think it is, Adefi Afanu. And then they've got Patrick Queen at middle linebacker. They've got some pieces, but I think that, they need edge rusher. So I go with who I think is the best edge rusher on the board. It's debatable. Some people have this guy going as late as 50. But I have the Baltimore Ravens selecting Chop Robinson out of Penn State. I think he's going to be the pick here. There's another Penn State guy who might go later. I'm not going to spoil anything. But this guy, Chop Robinson, is who the Ravens decide to go with.
I think this is a perfect fit for them. Like you said, they tried signing all their guys. They lost guys to trades and free agency. So they need defensive line help. I think this is like an atypical move for Baltimore, picking a defensive lineman. And an interesting note about Chop Robinson is I saw an interview with him, and he said that he was born swole, hence the name Chop Robinson. I just think that's a funny fact, and people should know that. So, yes, excellent pick for Baltimore.
I do not have a slide for 31 again. I think that's the one that got lost in the shuffle, but we got a Penn State guy up here. Who do the 49ers thinking here?
So I had the Niners with 31th pick. I think I looked at a few different positions. I looked at corner. I looked at offensive line. I looked at edge. And I just really think they need some defensive line help. And I feel like they're the type of team that they always want. They want all their defensive line fresh every play. And so with 31 pick, another Penn State guy, they pick Adisa Isaac.
I think this is a great pick for them here. They're going to go a lot of different ways. I do think that defensive line was their biggest need. They lost, I'm blanking on everybody's name today. The guy from Washington that they got for a few games. You got it? I can't. It's not coming
I'm brain farting too, boy.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. The guy from Ohio State, with the cornrows, the blonde cornrows. Anyways.
Oh, Chase Young.
Chase Young. There you go. So Chase Young, they lose him, and so I think that they go defense. I think they could go Chop Robinson if he's still on the board. They go Isaac. They could go that route. They could go Darius Robinson, who's a guy who's fallen a bit, but he could still go there. I do like Adisa Isaac for the 49ers. I think he fits right in as well. John Peebles, what's going on? Joins the show. He says, hey, me too, Brandon Combs. Meaning, I guess he agrees with me about one of these picks. Most likely the pick that Buccaneers getting DeJean.
Okay, right, so I had the last pick. No.
Let it fly.
With the last pick, the number 32, I had Kansas City, which I hated picking for because I hate the goddamn Chiefs and their being champions. I looked at corner. We were talking about Kool-Aid. I thought about him. But ultimately, I think they need offensive line help because their offensive line does hold a lot. And hopefully this guy doesn't do that. So with the number 32 pick in the first round, the Chiefs pick Amarius Mims.
Love the pick. I do think Kansas City needs tackle. I think I've been having them every mock draft I've done. I've had them taking a tackle. Mims is the big name on the board or the highest rated guy on the board. I personally like Tyler Guyton more than Mims. I just prefer him, but Mims is rated higher, so it makes sense that he would go here. Like you said, we discussed Kool-Aid could have gone here as well. A lot of different options. And I think Kansas City makes the right choice. They get tackle. That's going to help them next year as well. And good pick. I had no problems with
it. Yeah, so I thought about Guyton, Wayne, because I did see a lot of your mocks with him mocked there, and I thought about it. And I got to admit, I don't know a lot about all these guys, and I haven't really watched a lot of film. But like you said, he was more higher rated, and I thought maybe he should have maybe got him higher. Not totally sure, but I know they needed tackle help, and I feel like either side, if he plays right or left, he'll fit in. So that's why I picked him.
Brandon does chime in. He says, Chiefs go Blake Corum. I know you hate running back in round 1, but he fits their offensive scheme and won't be there when they pick in round 2. Listen, not only do I not like running back in round 1, I don't like any running back in this class in round 1 or even sniffing around round 1. I'm going out there with a broom. I'm shooing them away because they are not going any earlier than the middle to late second round. Corum might not go until the 4th round. You guys remember, this guy has an injury history. Andy ran, I think, a 4.55 or something like that. The combine. He's not going to be the first running back off the board. It's probably going to be Brooks. Yeah, it's going to be Brooks is going to be the first running back off the board. Maybe Benson will be the first guy. Maybe even Hyatt. But Corum is probably going to be the 6th running back off the board. And when you figure that the first one's going to go in the middle to late round set 2, Corum might not be on the board or might be on the board until the 4th or 5th round.
So, Wayno, I totally agree with you. And I thought that I agreed with Brandon a lot. But in this case, I do not agree with him. And I don't think there's going to be a running back off the board. And it's not going to be Corum. And haven't the Chiefs learned from their mistake with Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the last pick of the round? Look what he's done with them. He doesn't even start half the time. So, yes, Blake Corum is not the guy, and he's not going to go in the first round. Sorry, Brandon.
No, the reason you take tackle here, and the reason you don't go running back, I mean, we've explained it several times, but I don't mind explaining it again. There's bigger needs. They have a need at tackle. They have a need at corner. Why would they forego both of those needs to take a position they don't need? So it doesn't make any sense. Running back's a position that you generally get in round 2, 3, 4, or 5. I mean, Ramondre Stevenson's a stud. He was a 4th round pick. You know, you don't need to take these guys that high. So anyways, love you, Brandon. Thank you for tuning in and putting in the comment. Yes. I do also want, since we're talking about other guys who will not go in round 1, thankfully neither of us drafted Xavier Worthy, a guy who a lot of people had him in the first round of their mock drafts, and they're about to get egg in the face, hopefully inside of a closed fist.
Yeah, so there was a few guys that didn't make the first round. Let's talk about them. Kool-Aid, McKinstry didn't make it. Keon Coleman isn't a first-round pick. So there was a few guys that were on the cusp that we almost picked, but didn't quite make it there, but they're definitely second rounds. And then Brandon, one also thing is that the Chiefs could still get Blake Corum, just not in the first round.
Maybe he'll go to the Bears. You know, they might need a running back.
He can go anywhere. Yeah, he can be a Bear. Who knows?
I think they should trade out of 1 and get Blake Corum. So but no, I do think there are a couple of guys. Yeah, I mean, a guy like Patrick Paul, right, is a guy who's going to maybe be a 2nd round pick. I like him a lot. You know, Darius Robinson, we mentioned he could be a 2nd round. He could be a 1st round pick. I'm curious to get your thought before we exit the show here. I know we're running a little bit over. Thank you, everybody, for sticking with us. Quarterback. Our 6 quarterbacks went in the top 15 of this draft. Who's the next one, and how far down do you think they go?
Oh, that is pardon my French, but that's a fucking good question, Wayne. And oh man, I don't even honestly, I can't. I don't know who it would be, but I don't think it's gonna be later. I want to say some team's gonna reach in the 2nd round and pick maybe Spencer Rattler. Maybe that's what my gut says.
I was just going to say, I think it's going to be Rattler, and I think it's going to be to the Raiders because they didn't get him in round 1 here. So I think that they take him in round 2, although it could also be the Giants taking Rattler, right, to back up / potentially overthrow Jones. So those are the 2 teams I think in round 2 that could go quarterback. They could also wait and go later. My favorite quarterback to watch in college last year is going to be a 5th round pick, and that's Bazooka Joe Milton. Guy's got an absolute howitzer for an arm. He's 6'5", 230. There have been some reports that he might play tight end in the NFL. Don't listen to those reports. We're the NFL experts. The guy's going to be a quarterback.
Remember, like Cecil said, he doesn't like Bazooka Joe. So if you ever meet him, Wayne, do not call him Bazooka Joe. And yes, he does have a freaking.
I'll go nose to nose with him.
Cannon. Say what? Sorry.
I said I'll go nose to nose with him. What's he going to do to me?
Okay, so yes, he does have a hand cannons, which I can see him going higher than the 5th round. I see some needy team picking him earlier than that. But yeah, I think the next guy might be after Rattler, maybe Pratt. I keep hearing him that he might be a guy that the Broncos might go if they don't get a guy like May or McCarthy.
Yep, and there's the guy from Western Kentucky, Reed. I think it is Austin Reed. However, you should learn your lesson from Western Kentucky quarterbacks. Western Kentucky is the new Hawaii. If you're a Western Kentucky quarterback, you're going to throw for 6,000 yards. All right. Bailey Zappi did it, and now Austin Reed's doing it. Stay away from Austin Reed.
I guess I'm going to have to watch some what is it, West Kentucky, Wayne? I'm going to have to watch some
Western
football.
Kentucky.
All right.
If
I
you
love
like
the
high scoring and no
directional
defense.
school. All right, Wayne. Well, this is a great draft. I hope everyone out there enjoyed it as much as we did. I laughed a lot tonight, which I don't know if I do a lot on the show, but I think so. So yes, I enjoyed myself, Wayno. Sorry, I'm talking on and on.
No, that's fine. Hey, thank you everybody for tuning in. Brandon, John, thank you for chiming in. Always appreciate you guys. If you are listening on Spotify, make sure you check out the live show. Send us a message on social media. Follow us on social media. We appreciate it. We'll interact with you. You have a friend in us, and we're NFL experts. You can get NFL expert advice from us as well. And if you want to see a little bit more of me, I will be on the Stadium Rant podcast. It'll be live as well tomorrow during the draft. I'm representing the Cardinals, even though I don't really give a crap about the Cardinals. They're going to have me on there to talk about who they should take and then kind of give my thoughts on the pick, which is going to be Marvin Harrison. That's the no-brainer. The question is, are they going to pick at 27 or are they going to trade out? I'm hoping they trade out and they do it early so I can go to bed.
I'm really glad that you mentioned that, Wayne, because I was going to say it. Yes, so check out Wayne on Stadium Rant for their live draft. And then on Monday next week, I'm going to be on Windy City Sports with Brandon Combs, who chimed in tonight on his podcast. And I'm going to be breaking down the Broncos draft. So if you want to hear a little more of our voices, check us out.
If you're a Windy City Sports fan, isn't it going to be nice to have somebody who knows football on that show? It's going to be great.
Oh, shots fired, Wayno. Party on, Wayne.
Mark.